I'd like to call the April regular meeting of the Westonka School Board to order. If everybody would rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. Westonka staff and retiree recognition, May 2nd, 7:30 a.m. in the Performing Arts Center. Facilities Committee meeting, April 23rd, 7 a.m. right here. Policy Committee meeting, May 12th, 5 p.m. Followed by the regular school board meeting at 6 o'clock right here. Anybody from the public want to address the board? If not, then we'll move on to the student rep report. Mason, you're on.
All right. So, my name is Mason. I am one of the co-presidents of the Student Senate and the report. So there's not much to go over. I don't know, we just had spring break and end of the quarter, so that was a lot going on at school, and then sports are kind of in a transition period right now. But Student Senate, yeah, we haven't had much going on, but we've been planning the student versus staff basketball game, which is going to be on April 16th. If you know anyone that would be interested in playing, let them know, because we're looking for like staff right now to play, but we have a good student team. So that should be fun. It's a good way of fundraising for us and bringing students together. And then we're also going to be attending a division meeting. So we, in our division, it's like schools, Wayzata, Orono, and we just go meet with them, and then there's some positions on a board for our division that kids can run for, and that will be in the month of May when we'll do that. And then prom as well, and that will be at Gale Woods this year. And then the juniors normally plan prom, so they've been working on Grand March and coordination and how all the logistics to that are going to look. On to DECA, we have our DECA members heading to ICDC. I believe it's 50 this year, which is a massive number, and it's really good for us. And I think they leave on April 25th, and then the fundraiser, the bingo night, is next Wednesday. And Letters of Love, they've been hard at work making cards. Rotary Club, they had some scholarships due in the past month, and that's been a great opportunity for students that help out in the community to apply to those. National Honor Society recently hosted the blood drive on April 2nd, and they donated 56 units of blood, which is saving up to 168 local hospital patients, which is a great thing for kids to get hours as well as helping out the community. Tonka Bots, they're heading to Worlds again, which is in Houston, and they placed second in another regional event this past weekend. I heard they had some problems with the robot in the last round or something like that, but found a way to make it work and placed good. And then Unified Club, that we're hosting an event actually tomorrow in the gym, so it's going to be like bowling, some drawing, pickleball, volleyball with some of the special ed students, and then some general education students, just bringing us together, having a good time. That will be fun. And then we're planning on doing a shirt making event at the end of May. Hopefully we can get outside and do like some tie-dye or something of that sort. FCA, they've been continuing to meet mostly on Thursday mornings. And then kind of back to Senate. So in the past weekend there was the MAHS and MASC, so the Minnesota Student Council Association and then the Minnesota Honor Society Association. There's an event that normally takes place, so it's a state convention. It can take place at high schools around the state. Last weekend I think it was up in Hibbing, and we had we sent 4 students up there, and Georgia Harmer was elected VP to the MAHS board, so the Honor Society board. So she'll go around and plan different stuff, plan next year's state event. And then Susie Marth, I believe, is going to run for the secretary spot because there's an open spot there. On to athletics, so I believe track has a competition tomorrow. Boys baseball, we have a game tomorrow. That will be our first game. Our game against St. Peter got postponed. It was supposed to be last Saturday.
Is that home or away?
It's going to be a home game.
Okay. And
then we play Benilde on Friday, so that's a home game too. And then boys volleyball, we started last week, so that's kind of awesome. That was so it's a sanctioned sport this year, so it was our first game as a sanctioned sport, and we beat Apple Valley in 5 games, and we beat them 15-3 in the last set. So it was a long game. I think we ended around like 10-15 or 10-20 at night. So it was late. And then I think we're playing Farmington tomorrow at 8 at home, if I'm not mistaken. Girls softball, they have a game on Thursday with Spectrum, and then boys and girls lacrosse will start their seasons on April 14th against Delano. And then for commitments, JT Kimbrough committed to Augsburg to play football today, and yeah, I don't believe there's any other ones. For arts, March was Youth Art Month and Music in Our Schools Month, and to celebrate, the Westonka Fine Arts Hall of Fame invites nominations for individuals who have made significant contributions to the fine arts in the Westonka community. Categories including alumni, directors, teachers, advisors, and volunteer administrators with nominations will be due on May 1st, 2025. And as you may know, the Mamma Mia show has been going on in the PAC, and I've heard it's been very popular and a very good show. And the next 2 dates are the 12th and the 13th, so I believe Friday and Saturday. And then
Saturday.
or is that Saturday?
Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday evening, Sunday.
Yep, Saturday and Sunday. Those are the dates for the Mamma Mia, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. So, yeah. And then for visual art, the MWHS Spring Student Show is up in the PAC, so you can walk around in the PAC and see a bunch of different paintings, drawing, graphic design creations from art classes by the MWHS students. On to academics. I mean, it was the end of the quarter when spring break ended, and students are finishing strong. Quarter 4, it's the last little bit, especially for seniors. So, yep, things are going good. And then Westonka update, not much. The groundbreaking was going on, and then construction has started on some parts of buildings, and there's a lot of, I don't know, walls disappearing. So, yeah, and walls in the middle of rooms, but yeah. Otherwise, there's not much going on, so if you guys have any questions?
Mason, you made a big decision recently.
Oh, yes, I did. I will be attending Vanderbilt next year.
Wow.
So.
Oh,
wow. That's awesome. That's just awesome.
Where are DECA Nationals? Where are they going?
That would be Orlando, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Then you mentioned the boys volleyball.
Yeah.
Are they doing evening matches so that like baseball players and
Yeah.
lacrosse players and track players
Exactly.
can also participate in that?
Yeah, so that's
Okay, nice.
the case I'm in. So
Yeah.
I do baseball from about 3:30 to 6 every day. So today I have it, and then right now I'm just gonna go to volleyball practice. But yeah, with our home games for volleyball, they're like around 8, which makes it a lot easier. So tomorrow I'll play in a volleyball or in a baseball game, and then the volleyball game will be after at home. So it'll be busy, but I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So.
What was the date, and was it the home opener for boys and girls lacrosse?
I believe that was April 14th, and I don't know if that's the home opener or not. So I just saw that we played Delano. But yeah, otherwise, any more questions or? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Look at that.
Now we'll move on to a construction update. Dustin?
Man, just when you think you have a busy schedule, I hear that. That's pretty impressive. So what we're gonna walk through here is, we'll just give a general board update, just to show where everything's at for construction. So what we do is, just for owner updates, we have what we call a Spark page update. And what this is it allows anybody to go in at any given time. We update it on a monthly basis to see high-level construction updates, along with any general information for the project and what's gonna be happening this month, next month. So this is an updated rendering. We actually just got this updated about 2 hours ago, but this is a rendering of what the new front entry will look like on the north side of the building. Just a general update about the project. So if anybody logs in at any point, you can see just high level, the project consists of 4 additions: classroom, student service administration, fitness, special ed, cafeteria expansion. Fitness addition is a storm shelter with a courtyard that we're redesigning the layout of the courtyard. There are also mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection upgrades throughout the building. Mechanical, mezzanine, along with upgrades to the interior finishes throughout the building. Also included in the interior scope is the expansion of the cafeteria and main gym upgrades. The site work scope consists of demolition of existing tennis courts to expand the parking lot reconfiguration for the traffic flow in the parking lot, along with utility upgrades and paving. As far as just an overall phasing, we have that. So that was the overall board that we had in front of our booth here this past Thursday. This is exactly what we have on our website, so if anybody wishes to come in here at any time, they can see the update to the phasing. And if something changes as we go, we'll update this in live time for everybody to review. Then the groundbreaking, we stole these photos right from Westonka's Instagram account. But fun event, very fun event. Actually, that was, I will go on the record saying that was the best groundbreaking I've been to, so kudos. That was very fun, very fun. John Hunick mimicked similar thoughts on his end. But for day-to-day construction updates, I'll let Eric take over and go over the work happening in March and in April.
This is a website we could go to at any time ourselves, or?
Yep, generally I'll run
This will be
the,
on our bond website, so for the community, the public staff, they'll be able to see.
So go into the Westonka website and then the bond?
Yep.
Okay, thanks,
And
yeah.
it's clear that the scope of this is just the high school. It's not Grandview, it's not the
Yes.
stadium, and so forth.
so that's a good question, I'm glad you brought it up. What I was talking to our marketing team about potentially doing is having a website that had quick links to any projects going on in Westonka. So we'd have a link probably to the tennis courts, we'll have a link to the high school, and we'll have a link to the middle school.
Great.
And future fields and Shirley Hills Hilltop.
That'd be great.
That would
Yeah.
be great,
Fantastic, yeah. Great question.
All right, so work that happened in March, most of this work happened over spring break. So we mobilized, Kraus Anderson mobilized into the South 3 tennis courts. Inside the building, we demoed ceiling, flooring, casework, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, all in an effort to install the temp walls that are running through the classrooms on both the upper and lower floors, on the north and west exterior walls where the addition is gonna be going. We installed our site fencing around our classroom addition construction area. XL was out and relocated the primary power line that was running where our addition is gonna be going. Now it's up next to that fire access lane. And then all throughout the month, electrical and mechanical have, mainly electrical, but both electrical and mechanical have been in the school, back of house, doing some pre-work, running some conduits and loading the building with materials so we can get all that stuff stacked up in there. Upcoming work in April, so as you can see, we've started demolition. We will resume demolition tomorrow. We're gonna be bringing in some bigger machinery and starting that work, and that work will happen at 4 o'clock. So because we're bringing in the bigger machinery and taking out bigger portions of the wall, we wanted to eliminate the safety factor with the students in the building. So we're starting right when school gets out, we'll start demoing that exterior facade.
That'll be each day then, you doing that, or is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll also start to install select underground utilities, mainly around where the addition is gonna be, or where they're gonna be excavating for the addition. We have a storm line that we gotta relocate there as well. And then we'll excavate for footings and foundations and form and pour foundations and footings for the addition, so. High level, that's kind of the work that'll be happening in April. But any questions on construction activity?
So far, so good?
Yeah.
Any surprises?
Yeah, any surprises?
No,
on the first day?
seriously, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a fair
I
question.
heard there were a few walls between classrooms that were taken out early and sort of ahead of schedule, or
Some few
I
walls.
think he's talking about temp walls
the temp walls and
that
stuff.
they got put in.
Oh,
What
So-
basin the student rep is referring to, what's the extent that the students are seeing, like, that, I'm curious about that,
That's a good
What
question.
are they-
We have photos down
how are
here.
they being impacted this month?
well, the first day of demo, the noise was probably an impact. But
So this work that you're looking at happened over spring break.
Okay.
And so we tried to capture that time of getting these temp walls up, which would be of impact. then I think, as Eric is mentioning, scheduling the heavier demo outside of the learning hours, outside when those areas are gonna be occupied to limit the amount of noise.
So is it just, dumb question for me, but, so the temp wall is the interior one being put up, the 2x4s, right?
Sure,
Yep.
yep,
Is the wall beyond that coming down then?
yes,
Is if they're expanding and stuff?
yep.
Okay,
So you'll see that we're building those interior walls to be the new exterior walls. So we do have insulation, and we're actually weatherproofing the entire wall. That way, if we do get any side rain or wind with the rain, we're not letting it get into the classroom spaces.
okay.
So if
But that's not gonna be the permanent wall?
No,
Okay.
Nope.
But you gotta build it that way right now, just until you get.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you see, or if you saw at the groundbreaking where the windows had been taken out,
Yeah.
that was actually abated. We had to get the glazing abated, from those windows, so we could do mass demolition. But you saw the Tyvek through the windows there, that's that exterior weather barrier,
Okay.
so.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
there you go.
So that's, the Tyvek is part of the temporary wall inside?
Yes.
And this wall is coming, this big wall is coming down, you already started up on top, I guess, right?
Mhm.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, so they did some, that was done by, just like a hand jackhammer.
Mhm.
Just to kind of do initial investigation, see the construction of the wall, what's gonna happen, and it was decided that, the best route to go was to bring in this excavator with a claw on it, and they'll peel this, and it'll be done in days as opposed to, longer, so.
Then, Dustin, can you just give an update of Grandview? Just,
Yep, Grandview, I think I might be stealing James Collins' thunder, but I think a lot of the work that's been happening over there was with him. They did a lot of abatement with some of the existing tile work, but I think they had asbestos in some of, I think it was in the ground. I think, wasn't it lead? Either way, they got that all abated here this past 2 weeks ago over spring break. And we actually had an opening with Widener's to actually let them actually start work inside of the tunnels for any of the mechanical that they have to do. So any of the heavy piping, copper piping, they're actually putting that in the tunnels and starting that work. So they're trying to get as much done as they can before summer to make it a less stressful summer for them.
so, right now, there'll be a big month, hopefully, manageable rains and timely schedules.
Right.
Weather's looking pretty good here for the next.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And then for tennis courts, it's probably end April, or early May when we can see temps reach a point that we can surface the courts.
Yes. Yep, and right now we're in contact with Peterson. We're in communication weekly on that one, so once we get that scheduled, we'll be in touch with Kevin to make sure we get that on everybody's radar.
I heard we had to wait till the lows are above 50 there, right, or roughly there?
What we keep hearing is the temperatures need to be 50 degrees and rising, so if there's times in there where it drops below that 50, they're not gonna start.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that could be July, and then hopefully
I don't want to say hope not. Yeah, we have incentive, I mean, that's a good point. We have every incentive to try to get that done as quickly as possible, because then we get the
rest of you get
the
the
rest
old
of the
ones,
tennis
you get the rest of the
courts
old
laid out
tennis
for
courts, right?
construction material, yeah.
I hear you, yeah.
Appreciate the organization and the beginning of operation with the project. And so Dustin and Eric will be coming to give regular updates for the board, and times to the next meeting we'll have different pictures to share.
Appreciate your time. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the treasurer's report, Al.
Yep, well, I missed last month, so we're gonna do February and March today. We begin with Sharon Thaler, Westonka Wings, $5,000. Rick Block, Westonka Wings, $500. Hilltop PTA, Hilltop Primary School, $373.54. Box Tops Education, Shirley Hills Primary School, $122.60. Shirley Hills PTA, Shirley Hills Primary School, $5,262.50. American Heart Association, Shirley Hills Primary School, $700. Black Bog Giving Fund, NWHS Activities, $20. Charities Aid Foundation, Mount Westonka High School, $53.36. Ohio File Prints, NWHS Activities, $26.29. Westonka Hockey Boosters, Westonka Girls Hockey Team, $2,725. Minneapolis Foundation, Tyler Hill Sunshine Scholarship, $4,000. Minneapolis Foundation Spring Creek Scholarship, $8,000. Butch Humbert Larry Excel Basketball Scholarship, $100. Weiser Insurance Agency, Weiser Insurance Scholarship, $500. National Honor Society NHS Scholarship, $4,000. The Northwest Tonka Lions First Robotics, $4,000. Bold Staff Recognition Event, $1,000. Egan Staff Recognition Event, $500. Jean Ann Thayer, West Tonka, $100. Egan Staff Recognition Event, $500. Black Bog Giving, Mount Westonka High School, $20. Charities Aid Foundation, Mount Westonka High School, $87.32. Westonka Hockey Boosters, Westonka Boys Hockey, $4,736.68. And Brad Von Bank, Westonka Baseball Dugout Project, $5,000. Marlene Fritz, Westonka Community Theater, $300. Andrews Family Trust, Westonka Community Theater, $1,000. Westonka JC's Scholarship, $4,000. Minneapolis Foundation, Tyler Russell Hills Sunshine Scholarship, $2,000. Butch Humbert, Larry Edsel Memorial Scholarship, $100. DAF Giving, $360. Nick Manty Scholarship, $750. Ruby Fribble and Sue Riley Memorial Fund, Sue Riley Memorial Scholarship, $2,000. Westonka Hockey Boosters for Hockey Locker Room Project, $13,300. Westonka Hockey Boosters, Westonka Boys Hockey, $1,036. And Deborah Eve Westonka Hawkettes Dance Team, $342. And Friends of Mount Westonka High School First Robotics, $20,000. Year-to-date donations so far, $247,764.54. And Mr. Chair and fellow board members, I looked at the check ledgers for February and March, and all seems to be in good order.
Thank you, Ralph. We'll move on to the financial report, Kathy.
Good evening, Board. I was fortunate to attend the groundbreaking, and I do have to say that Ralph's walk-up song was my favorite.
You're just saying that as a finance person for the program.
Yeah,
Did you say that again, Ted?
I'll be more organized next time.
You want that as a walk-up every time you give your...
I know. Show me the money, yeah. Speaking of money, that's tied to our students, and we have a good report as of April 1st. We have 2,413 students, which is a gain of 6 over the prior month. We had a family that returned to Shirley Hills, as well as a handful of new early childhood students. So that's good news. We have one more month, our May 1st count, and then we'll be wrapping up the year with final numbers. Expenditures through March 31st, we expended $27,096,000, or 65.8% of our yellow revised budget. That is trending appropriately compared to the other years. Going up to the revenue, we have received $23,406,000, or 55.8% of our prior year budget. That's pretty close. When I take a look at, there's a slight difference, and that is on our federal line. We do not have any COVID funds remaining this year, and we had those in the prior year. So that small difference represents this year not having COVID funds and the prior 2 years, those being present.
Are there any federal funds at this point that we have been told we will not receive with all the cuts going on and everything?
No, that's actually a good question. Mark and I just reviewed that today. We even contacted the State Department to make sure that we had received our final allocation, and it actually just went up just a very slight amount. We have a very limited amount of money that we get from the federal government, but we still wanted to
Helps.
verify,
Yeah,
yes.
it helps.
Yep, and we did that today. All right, just a few other items. Again, we're working on the adopted budget. The budget worksheets will be going out next week to principals and the department heads. We'll be presenting that in June. This is also the time of the year where we work with our insurance agent. We look for property, liability, and workman comp quotes for next year. I mentioned the title programs will amend and capture all of those final allocations. And lastly, we have a upcoming board finance meeting on June 5th, and the finance committee will review those insurance quotes, our enrollment, updated projections, and our final adopted budget preview. So that's all I have tonight. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks for your work. Teaching and learning, Mark?
So I have a few items here tonight for you. Get this. There we go. So tonight, I have 3 items for you, and there are 2 action items tonight that you'll be discussing and voting on, and I want to just go over those 2 items with you. The READ Act MOU, and then update on our teacher evaluation program. Just as a reminder, when we think about the READ Act and what it is, it's legislation from the state of Minnesota back in 2023 that is very intentional work around increasing the literacy proficiency of kids all across the state of Minnesota. And in the bottom part of that screen, the MDE has approved different reading assessments that all districts need to use. There's recommendations about different elementary literacy programs that should be implemented. The same with reading intervention support. And the piece I'm going to focus on tonight is required staff development that all staff need to complete. And with that, it is quite robust that there's a phase 1 and a phase 2, and currently all elementary staff that teach reading are in the middle of this reading professional development, along with all K-12 special education teachers, myself, principals, all are required to complete this training. This is phase 1. In phase 2, and we have to complete this, they bumped this deadline out to July 2026. But before that happened, we already had our game plan in place. We're going to be finishing here in June of 2025. Phase 2 comes in where we'll be training all paraprofessionals that instruct in reading, support students with their reading, and then it'll also be, it talks about grades 4 through 12, those that are teaching reading. We are already doing the middle school and all of elementary. It'll be basically our high school English department that'll be required.
Is this in-house training, or is this online training?
It's online.
Oh, online.
So the choices that staff have are, the first one, we call it CORE, Online Language Literacy Academy. 9 modules, about 50 hours of instruction. There's 11 high school teachers, almost 20 Grandview teachers, 26 elementary teachers that are in the CORE program. We've probably estimated about 2,800 hours of professional development been completed so far, collectively across those staff members. Then there is LETTERS. LETTERS is a very specific elementary program. It's 165 hours of training.
Is it an addition to core, or is it a different
No,
option?
it's a separate option.
Okay, thank you.
LETTERS will take 2 years to complete, but many would say if you want to get the deepest learning, LETTERS is the one to take. And it is not for the faint-hearted. I have a lot of respect for our staff that are taking LETTERS right now. It is like taking graduate work, the caliber of the learning that is happening. So we have 39 elementary teachers completing that. They probably have banked in about 3,500 hours collectively.
Then there is also a version of letters for early childhood. So all of our preschool teachers are taking the early letters. It's about, 4 units of learning versus 8, about 28 hours of instruction. And there's 5 preschool teachers that are completing that. And they probably have clocked at about 125 hours of professional development so far. So we put together a whole program for our staff to do this training within the school day. We decided an approach to take would be, we want staff to learn together. We thought that'd be better than just sending them off over the summer doing your own, versus they're using their PLC time. They can collaborate, they can talk about their instruction, they can then implement together, because the ultimate is to impact the learning in the classroom. So what happened after we put our plan together, so now let's think about June 2024, the legislature shifted around money and they came up with READ Act 2.0, and that's where you hear about stipends. So this is just the legal language about requirement of districts to provide stipends for staff. And I'm not gonna argue with that. They're putting in more time than what we allocate to get the job done. Westonka's allocation is about $88,000, and there's a formula that is used to come up with that. So before you, later in the agenda tonight, is the approved MOU that we negotiated with Westonka Education Minnesota, and I support that, as Kevin supports that. It spells out the stipends for the staff in the different programs, and so now it comes to you for your discussion and vote, and then we go forward.
But our teachers union has already approved it.
Yes, they have already voted on it, and they have approved it.
So Mark, are these funds that they're all coming out of our operations, or is this something that's come from the state, some of it?
The money has come from the state.
Okay, so this isn't really costing us our
It's
budget.
not. It's not.
So why would there be any question about it?
Correct.
We're approving just the distribution of it.
What you're gonna be looking at tonight is the stipend amounts and the parameters around how the money will be earned. For example, we expect staff to complete the training at a proficiency level before you earn the stipend, for example.
But the stipend amount would be based on which of the trainings
Correct.
they complete, and
Yes.
based on knowledge and stuff.
Yes.
When you say proficiency level, so
Yeah.
is there testing involved?
Yes.
It's-
Yeah.
Okay,
So you need proficiency level is 80%.
okay.
So it's not something where
You can't just check a box.
No, you
just
can't.
read through the stuff. Yeah,
No,
gotcha.
no, you can't. And the companies will certify the teachers.
Okay.
We have nothing to do with it. You have to take your quizzes, your tests, and then they will tell us if you have passed.
And once the certification phase is complete, then we go back to the state to issue the stipend? Is that how that works?
We will get a report from these companies with the roster of who's completed, who's passed, at 80%, and then we will issue the stipends. It's called out that we'll issue the stipends by June 30th.
Okay, but I mean, the state would have to be alerted somehow
No.
because it's coming from them,
Well,
right?
the state has given the money and the
okay.
local control to us to monitor and to approve.
So they transferred their control of the
Yes.
money, the payout of the stipend
Yes.
to the school ahead of time, so we can react
Yes.
when they get the certification.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's the local control with that. The other piece of this dollar amount, we have pulled out about $10,000 because the money can carry over. So now you think about the staff next year that I mentioned. Any new staff that we hire that are teaching reading in the future are also required to complete this training, that we negotiated some dollars, about $10,000 to earmark for the future. Eventually, this training is supposed to be put into all our public universities, so it's already taken care of when we come in to hire teachers. That'll take a few years for that to catch up with this requirement.
So it will become part of the degree
Yes.
at some point.
Yes.
What is the relationship for, teacher typically has ongoing professional enhancement
Yes.
lanes that they have to, are they pretty complementary to what they're doing there, or are they unrelated?
They can earn, well, two things. They can earn clock hours, continuing education units, to what they need to do every 5 years. And then if, with each of those programs, if they want, they can apply for graduate credit for possible lane change.
So it's all very complementary, they're doing it, but they're also complementing there for professional
Yes.
enhancement as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
On the previous slide, you had the breakdown in numbers between the two programs.
Yes.
Is that what you had expected? It looks like about most of the middle and high school opted for core, and half of the elementary school teachers
Yeah.
had less than half, I guess a third.
Yeah, the reason for that, core is designed for actually upper elementary into middle school, high school. The letters is very specific truly for like kindergarten, first grade, second grade.
Okay, so that's about what you had expected there?
Yeah.
And you talked about the proficiency tests, are they the same for both programs, or
No,
they have their
different.
own individual?
They're
proficiency
completely
tests?
different systems, but they both have a hallmark of 80%.
Brian, I would say that I was actually probably surprised as many, because they had that option that many did select letters.
Yeah.
That I was impressed,
Yeah.
knowing they did have the option. And this was very much structured by
Right.
the state about how this is gonna get implemented, that many chose to take that.
So I assume the stipend, I would assume the stipend would be greater for taking the letters, since it's three
It
times
is.
as many hours.
It is, and, I always think a lot about, this is on top of the normal day, even though we do build time in on a workshop day, or workshop days during the year to give them time to do this, it still means something else is not happening
Yeah.
when that's going
Well,
on. And many teachers, a number of teachers with letters, they were working on this over the summer.
Yeah. As I do my math, what was it, 90,000, 80-some thousand we're getting, and you've got 100 teachers. When I add up the early learning, you got 100 teachers already. I mean, it's not gonna be a huge stipend, is it?
It's not.
More of a thank you gift.
It is, it's an acknowledgement
Yeah,
of
okay.
your time. And that's part of why we wanted to also build it into their contractual time.
Yeah.
For that piece, but also for the collaboration. A number of districts, they just paid out of general ed funding. And they just said, here's your stipend, you come back over the summer and have it done. But there's no mechanism for collaboration, discussion about how we're gonna implement. That is what I love about what we're doing. We're doing it together. We're doing it as a team. We're gonna make sure that we talk and we think about how we're gonna implement these new things. If anything, what's happening at the elementary level, it's simply affirming the direction we have already been going with literacy education in our district. That if anything, it's been rewarding to see, yeah, those changes we made 5, 6 years ago, this is exactly what the best research is saying. So that's been a great bonus.
Sometimes when you have less control over the staff development, whether that's a school system, an administrator, a teacher, you don't have the same ownership or probably the acceptance of where that's headed. Some of the feedback that I've received on this training has been very positive. And so when you get something that's selected and handed to you that you're gonna be doing this, and it's very, it's uniformed across the state. It doesn't acknowledge different sets of needs that maybe different systems have. And so to receive positive feedback from some of the educators saying that it was of quality, that's what you'd expect. But when you apply a statewide system, it doesn't always work that way. So
Great.
I think that was good.
The other agenda item, action item for you tonight is on our teacher evaluation model. And we have in front of you tonight a 2025 revision. The last time we touched up our teacher evaluation model was in 2017. And the whole structure of the model has not changed, but the descriptors, which I have up here on the slide, has just been updated. And not that the 2017 version was anything wrong with it, but it's always good to come back every so often and just look at what is it that we're focusing on, what are the new needs. So I would just highlight on the current 2017 and highlight on the 2025, those that are in red are simply either new or more emphasis. So when you look over here under Domain 1 of Planning, Student Accommodations, Classroom Management, Organization of the Learning Environment, those are areas that reflect more of the work we're doing around MTSS with Tier 1 interventions and instruction support of students. Classroom management, that we know that in many cases it seems that at times there are different behaviors or more challenges at times around classroom management, so we really want to focus and make sure that everyone's on the same page on how to approach situations in our classrooms. And then the organizational learning environment, you know, just think about how should a classroom be set up at different levels. Should we be in rows? Should we be in, you know, in groups? What are the best practices to really enhance learning? And then you throw in the devices and the different technologies we have in the classroom. What should that classroom look like for the most effective learning? So we call that out. And then under Domain 2 with practice, the practices, you know, with instruction going on, integration of higher order thinking, think about questioning skills. Think about going deeper with learning. Think about bringing in authentic, real-life applications. And that brings in higher order thinking. So we want to be more and more intentional about not just disseminating knowledge, but let's help kids apply what they're learning to their lives and in authentic situations. And then the last one, sometimes people are surprised, well, what do you mean professional responsibility? Isn't that just inherent? It is inherent. But we also felt like, and again, this is our administrators in our district and our union, teacher union reps working on this together. We just felt like it's just good practice to call out what professional responsibilities are. And it's the obvious, but we wanted to call it out of what we expect as an employee, as a teacher, in our school system. The other piece, so that was classroom teacher descriptors. We also have what are called non-classroom descriptors, classroom teacher descriptors. And we have a group of staff that are not classroom teachers, but they're psychologists, social workers, a school nurse, school counselors that are also part of our evaluation model. And again, we just wanted to update the language. The 2017 language, nothing wrong with it, but it was also time to reflect, refresh what we were doing. So we're bringing in, under Domain 1, intentional planning and organization. So what does that mean in your domain with planning, organizing your work? For some, it could be, how do you communicate with parents? How do you communicate with students? What does that structure look like if you're working with students one-on-one? You're working with families one-on-one. And then number 3 under Domain 2, knowledge and delivery of pedagogy and best practice. That just really calls out, in your domain of practice, do you know your practice? Are you researching in your area? Are you going deep? Are you constantly learning in your area of practice? And what does best practice look like? What does best research look like? So you're able to provide the most effective support and delivery of your work with our students. It's all about the students in the center. And then we also just call out again professional responsibilities, number 10.
Okay, I got one.
Yeah.
One omission that I see in 2025 that was in 2017, I gotta ask about it.
Yeah.
Here it's in Domain 1, number 1, best practice and 277 initiatives. Domain 4, best practices and 277 initiatives. In the regular teacher model,
Yeah.
There was one in there also about, if you go back one slide, no, I lost it, there. Number 4, application of
Yeah.
277.
Yeah.
What was that about and why isn't that in there?
Yeah, it's a good question. We had a lot of conversation about that.
Okay.
And like, maybe the best way to look at it is this one where we have best practice and 270 initiative in planning. We decided back in 2017, whatever the district is doing, let's just make sure we call it out that it's happening in our classrooms, it's happening with our staff, it's happening. Well, since 2017 to now, our PLC structures, our processes have become so tight and so goal-ridden that the need to call it out the way we did before isn't necessary. When we talk about multi-tier systems of support, we don't need to call that out. It's so baked in to how we do our work. It is just part of planning and organization, period.
Okay.
So it's not that we're going to neglect,
Mhm.
our initiatives.
Right.
We just have such strong processes and procedures in place when we are rolling things out. For example, we have tactics. We have building goals that now more than ever we follow.
So those are just more incorporated
It's
into
just
the process.
incorporated
Okay.
into everything we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
good question. Good question.
Just wanted you to know I'm paying attention.
Absolutely. Reading it, thank you, Lord. You're reading it all.
I'm just impressed you got the word pedagogy in there.
You have to have one.
Feels very educational.
That's right. That is there. That is there. So that is the change. Those are the changes in the descriptors. And what
And we're
comes.
approving that tonight.
Yes.
And again,
The
the
union
teachers
has
has already,
approved.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what goes with the approval of these descriptors are updated rubrics. So every descriptor that you will see has a 4-point rubric. So that's what we use, the administrators, principals use to evaluate staff, is on that 4-point rubric for each of these descriptors. So that has been updated too.
Can you go back to the previous one with the teachers there? Is that a question on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Classroom management, item 3 in domain 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that emphasis on giving the individual teacher greater autonomy for how she organizes her individual classroom? Or is that just more of an awareness of how the classroom has to be organized? Or exactly what were you trying to accomplish?
What we're accomplishing there is, it seems like nowadays, every student has different needs. And we don't now have students that all come in, all 25, exactly the same. Instead, we have to be very intentional about knowing the needs of each individual student. And how does that impact how you set up your classroom? Because there's many different needs at times that come through. So it's not a reflection that, oh, we don't have good classroom management in our schools. That's not the intent at all. It's more reflecting, acknowledging that more than ever, teachers are facing, multiple different students that come in. And how do we work together to make sure that management piece is solid so we can do the learning over here?
So I saw that when I was
Yeah.
just, the accommodation for special needs students in the general student population
Yes.
was a good example of that, where
Yes.
sometimes they had to be in kind of an area just to make them more
Yes.
comfortable
Yes.
or more susceptible to
Yeah.
learning, that kind of thing. So they, whereas 20 years ago, everybody was sitting in a row and, you had assigned seating.
That's part of the reflection of
Yeah.
that. We also have, more than ever, 504 plans.
Mhm.
And they come with its own individual learning plan for students. So we need to really be mindful as classroom teachers, who's in my room? What do I need to do to set up that piece of it so everyone's learning to the best of their ability? Good question. Okay, so that's that piece there. And then just to touch on a couple other things, last pieces I have tonight. State testing has begun. This is our first full week, and it begins tomorrow in all of our schools, and again, always so proud of our staff and our students, the work that they do to prepare for the testing. And again, it's not all about the test, but it certainly is one lens of a reflection of our school district and our students in our community. And we've gone through all the trainings and setups, and again, what I really love at the high school this year, Jolene Herfel and then Jen Bormas, who's our testing coordinator, they've made posters, little posters to put up in each classroom, and larger posters in the high school, just indicating, let's be proud of our school. You, student body, you should be very proud of the accomplishments you've had. Do your best on these tests. Reflect what you have learned this year. And again, it's about celebrating our students in many ways. But this is the start of the testing season. We'll start with state testing. The windows go through early May. At the high school, we're going to move right into AP testing. That'll take the next 2-3 weeks of May. And then across all our systems, all our buildings, we'll have Bassbridge spring testing. And that's our own local accountability, where we measure growth from the fall to the spring. And that'll be done all the way from K up through 9th grade.
What's the January 27th, March 21 testing window?
Oh, that was for access testing. So access is for English learner testers, students. Okay, and just want to point out again, Mason, he shared tonight, but I will share one more time with you. The Tonkabots just have done a wonderful year. They took first place up in Duluth in late February at the Lake Superior Regional. And then just this weekend, they were at the U of M at the North Star Regional, took second place. And the comments that were made was that competition, and I was there for the final piece of it, it was like the world's competition. The level of sophistication, the ability, the high functioning of these robots, and the craziness in the crowd. I mean, it just is really something. That it was a great precursor. So for our team to come out second place, it's quite amazing. It's going to serve them well when they go to Houston on April 16th.
Well, the win up in Duluth, that was a repeat, right?
So the win in Duluth, it was a repeat from last
right,
year.
Right, they won
yes,
last year.
Yes.
Repeat
yes,
champions.
Yes,
okay.
And then that qualifies them to go to Worlds.
Right. Is the North Star, is that a new one?
North Star is it has been around. It wasn't here last year. It came back this year. This is the first time we actually had a second regional.
Okay.
It's all about practicing, and again, I have to say, some very generous donors in our community that, as Ralph was rattling off some of these donations, really supporting the team. And you cannot do it without those supports. So that is happening. They'll go to Worlds here in mid-April. And then, as you heard also, DECA, 50 students going to internationals. These are our future business leaders coming through. And again, when you look at the different competitions over on the right side of the things that they're doing, they're just preparing them for future careers and ideas of things that they'll do in college. But again, it's always just a great showing for our high school to send that many students.
Do they pick a lane in their competitions, or do they have to be proficient in 1 through 6?
No, they pick different categories.
Okay.
So Mason will give you some updates, I know, in May when he comes back. So, all right, that's my report.
Great.
Thank you.
You gonna try and top that?
So board members, you got a nice update on construction. Obviously, a big piece of what's going on. I would thank the board for being at the groundbreaking, fun event to do with the community, to showcase what's coming up ahead, and just thank the community that we have this opportunity to make these improvements to our schools. And so really excited about that, excited about our team. Kraus Anderson is they do a lot of work and they're very skilled at what they do, and we want that on this project. And then our architects will for their design. We're currently working on the design of the stadium and our primary schools improvements, and so that's a step that we're doing while we are doing construction. We hope to have the ribbon cutting for the tennis courts and that are lined with pickleball on May 21st. And so weather allowing, we're gonna have those opened up before then. But that's what our hope is. More information will come out about it. We wanted to communicate the groundbreaking first and not compete messages of what's happening when, so we'll be getting that out there more. Grandview's improvements is something that we're excited to take on. The added security, the improvements to that media center, it's really an exciting design, and it's gonna make a nice impact to that building as well. Mark took quite a bit of time and talked about some of the MOUs, but there's a lot of important things there. The READ Act is something that the state chose to be a main focus of staff development across the state. And Mark and his team have worked to embed that with meaning in the district. And in that can look differently just on how you engage with your staff, how it's presented, and how it's incorporated. And so I want to echo their thoughts of how they made this collaborative with their team versus we got to just jump through these hoops and say we've done it and move on. And so I really believe that they're working on making the most out of this opportunity. And we'll see the benefit for that. Also, the teacher evaluation is one of the most important things that we can do is how we engage with our staff on what's going well and how we can improve. And the dialogue with our educators of the forms that we use and the meaning behind the forms, that's really rich to be able to bring a shared understanding of what is high performance and how do we work of achieving that. And so when he talks about the teaching and learning group, that's the special ed director, that's our building principals, that's union reps, all coming together on those important topics. And so that's really great work. State testing, it's something that always comes up, but it is a moment of, the state has called out standards that they expect our kids will have mastery of, and it's our way to show proficiency with that. And so take pride in it, that this has been called out and we're gonna do this well. And so I feel like the Westonka community can be really proud of our kids, of how they've taken on this effort. And so I have full confidence going ahead this year. Kathy talked about the finance update, and we have adopted budget coming in June. One thing that's part of our system is that each year we challenge our budgets to make sure that we're expending dollars as well as we can. And so we challenged ourselves with a reduction, our budget goal of $100,000. And in that, you're gonna see a couple staffing changes that you're making that are part of these shifts of how we meet that challenge. But there's things that don't show up in a line item for an action for the school board. I would take an example like printing. Printing seems pretty benign, but we do a lot of printing in the school system, and reviewing our practices of how we can really make sure that when we expend dollars, we get full value out of that, and really challenge some of our thinking of the amount of prints and what's in color, what's in black and white, and et cetera. And so one thing I really like about this process that I appreciate the finance committee and our teams, our staff, our community, is each year setting a goal of saying that we have to review our budgets and let's find those efficiencies. And it's healthy. It allows you to prioritize your dollars and get the best value out of it. And so we have done that, we're gonna continue to do that. I'd share just a couple other comments. You're gonna see in your action items that you are going to take action on improving our insurance plan. And we have an insurance committee that works. We're self-insured. It was a really wise decision on the district to take that action years ago. We've managed this plan well, and we have stayed below what trend rates have been and we've continued that. And so this year, you're gonna see a 5% increase on our health and a 0% on our dental. You're gonna see that we're also looking at offering a voluntary group vision. If employees wanna take advantage of that, they can take advantage of it, and so it gives them access at that. But I really feel good about the structure of how we've moved forward with our health insurance, becoming self-insured, how we've managed our plan, and how we offer it. I think there's a shared ownership of it, and it's worked well. You're gonna see now, and you're gonna see in the months ahead, the sale of obsolete equipment. And so just so the community knows that through construction, we're getting new furniture. We did in our district what I call the Great Westonka Flea Market, where we posted things that we felt like had value. So if a teacher or someone else is getting rid of it, the rest of the district can see, is that something that's better than what I currently have? So we get full use out of something. If it is not claimed, then we're gonna post it on the site, the website for sale. We'll bring in whatever value we can bring in. Those things that don't appear to have value, if we can't even give them away, well then they will be discarded and we'll move forward. But I really feel an effort was, how do we make sure we keep what has value in our district, sell what doesn't, before we simply discard items. And so you'll see those items come before you. Last thing I'll just throw out there, at a policy today, we were talking about our continued discussion around our district goals. We continue, so board members, we sent some examples by email of those goals for you, and you can give me some thoughts on that. I plan on scheduling another retreat, hopefully in May, where we can go through some more of the details of this. But the exciting thing is our current goals are looking like they're met. And of course, you always can strive for academic excellence and some of these broader headlines, but the details under them, they should look like they're being met. And so we will work on the descriptors and continue to move that forward. But I would look for us to propose an additional meeting in May for further discussion around that. That being said, it's an exciting, springs are always exciting in schools because you have a lot of recognitions and you have a lot of excitement and we have a staff recognition banquet coming up early May. We have athletic and scholarship nights, and pretty soon that leads to graduation. And so it's always an exciting time in schools to see the cycle of different celebrations coming up.
Thanks, Kevin. Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to discussion items. Chair moves for approval of action item 8A, adopting the MOU between School District 277 and Westonka Education, Minnesota. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8B, approval of the revised teacher evaluation model. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8C, motion to rescind the March 3rd, 2025 approval of Luann Singh Lynch retirement, and to approve the new retirement date of June 30th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8D, approval of the first reading of policy 5330, wellness. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8E, approval of group medical insurance renewal and premium increases. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8F, approval of group dental renewal rates with no premium increase. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Oh, so you get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Anything with a zero.
Yeah.
Chair moves for approval of action item 8G, approval of the addition of a voluntary group vision insurance plan. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8H, approval of obsolete equipment to be sold at auction or recycled. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8I, approval of the resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of a teaching contract of Joe Bachman, a 1.0 probationary teacher. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair moves for approval of action item 8J, approval of the resolution to the non-renewing probationary teaching contract. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hey, one comment I want to make before we close, I just want to thank everybody on the board. This, as many of you know, this is my 50-year alumni year. I graduated from Mount Westonka in 1975, and so I've asked for the opportunity to both co-host, I think I'm co-hosting the recognition, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then also to hand out diplomas. I thought it'd be pretty cool to hand out diplomas, so. And I know Gary's doing that with me, but I just want to thank all of you for, as fellow board members, for letting me have that opportunity this year. It's pretty special.
I thought this was your 50th year on the board.
Well, no. Gary and Ralph are way ahead of me.
What? And we were close.
It took me 50 years to get a walk-up, so I'm good. But seriously, I do thank all of you for letting me have those opportunities this year. Pretty special year.
We got a lot of exciting stuff coming up this summer and a lot of things going on. So once again, thank you everybody for all your hard work. Is there any further business anybody has? If not, the chair moves for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good one, everybody.